Hi there, you're with English Coach. I'm Simon, and I'm here today to talk to you about the secret good of bad news or bad events. And in everybody's life, there are good and bad events. Generally, we like to focus on the good things, the things that are working, the things that are comfortable, and the things that are beautiful. The problem with that is these things don't always give us the long-term result or the knowledge or the power to continue strong and purposeful on our path. So, the secret good of bad events. Let me go through three major points here with you. The first is the lesson. Whenever something bad happens to us, if we don't go into the suffering too much and focus on what bad thing has happened to us and how we have been victimized, if we focus on learning some kind of lesson from this, based on our actions, what we might have done differently, what we could have done differently, we can get knowledge, but not any kind of knowledge, not everyday information like you get from the internet, but personal experiential knowledge that has a price or a value that's not quantifiable by any modern technology now. So, depending on that terrible thing that happened to you, 9 times out of 10, you won't be able to quantify the value of the lesson that you learned from that. Whether it's a 5-year-old kid grabbing onto an electric fence, or whether it's being kicked in the face by a horse, or being robbed on the streets of a big city, it really doesn't matter. There's always something to learn if you're not focusing on just the pain, but the surrounding environmental factors. There's the low point. The low point is a very important point here at number 2, talking about how you get forced to feel this suffering or this pain in your skin, in your emotions, in your mind. It kind of consumes you, and it can define you for a time and kind of stretch your spectrum of feeling by giving you a new low. Now, where could be the good news in this? Where could be the good news in that you're suffering a new low? And the secret here is that our mood spectrum, or our spectrum of feelings, negative feelings to positive feelings, is not something that just stretches one way. Is that if I'm doing very, very well in my life, and I'm having an excellent time, that doesn't mean that my bad feelings or the limit to how bad I can feel stays the same. No, that goes down. So I'm on the top of cloud 9 here because I got a new job or whatever. Everything's going fine. I'm earning a lot of money. Suddenly I've got a girlfriend and I'm dating. Oh my God, this is a wonderful life. And bang, for some reason, something goes wrong at work and I lose my job. And it brings me down 25%. But at least I've got my girlfriend. But hang on a second, I already spent all the money that I've been making from my job, so I can't take her out. And then so she's going out to the places that we always went, and I can't accompany her. Oh, I lost my girlfriend. And then I go even further down. Down as far as I went up. And the same thing exists for when you go down far. If you go down very far, if you lose someone in your life, if you lose something dear to you, and you drop down and suffer an intense grief or intense sadness or even anxiety, you experience that fully in your body and in your mind and in your heart. You experience that, but then you also have the capacity to experience something much greater, because these experiences stretch both sides of the emotional spectrum, or they are not exactly polar opposites. Question that. Okay, that's number 2, low point. Low point is not exactly a low point. It When people say you hit rock bottom, you also left yourself room at the top of the mountain. Okay. The secret good. I'm laughing because I'm just kind of getting the idea myself right now. The secret good is realizing that behind every terrible event in your life, there is something hidden that benefits you or someone around you that you care about. If you write down exactly what happened from a neutral perspective, if you write down the event that you say ruined your life or was the most terrible thing, you will see at least one aspect to this benefited you in some way. And the fact is, usually that way is, 30% or 20% relevant to us in that moment, depending on what's going on. But remember, our focus, if we are not working on who we are, if we're not improving, our focus is not always in the best place. So sometimes we insist on telling ourselves and everybody around us that our lives are ruined when we've actually opened something up, or we have another direction that we can possibly take. And that's number 3, realizing the hidden benefit of what happened and what it now allows us to do that we couldn't perhaps do before. Okay. And then, this has a lot to do with knowledge and worshipping greatness through bad experience. It sounds completely unrealistic and contradictory, but worshipping greatness through bad experience really does work at making you an anti-fragile human being. Okay? The recipe, what is the recipe for building this greatness in you so that you're able to achieve this? Well, the first point is meditation. You need to spend at least 5 minutes to 10 minutes meditating per day. And if you don't have this habit, you should at least give it a trial run in your life. Experiment with it. Experiment with meditation and see what kind of results you get. And if you do get results, impose action. Impose action to making sure that you continue that, because it really does hold a lot of benefits for your mind, and it allows you to see with greater clarity how there's greatness in bad experiences. Reflection. Meditation can also help with reflection, but reflection is taking that time by yourself to understand exactly what happened and who was involved and what are the consequences and what is the impact for you. And so that you can really be able to understand the lesson, feel your low point, and realize or recognize your secret good or the hidden benefit of this bad thing. Self-talk, that means you're in a state of shock, things are not going so well, but you take yourself to a quiet place, perhaps the same place that you would do meditation, and you talk to yourself. You have a conversation with yourself. Of course, your friend or a member of your family catches you and says, "Oh, you're crazy. What are you doing talking to yourself? That's so crazy. How could you do that? You're a crazy person." When in fact, self-talk, if I could prescribe it as a medicine, I think it would sell out if I could sell it. If I could sell a bottle of liquid that forced people to talk with themselves or gave them the capacity or the courage to talk to themselves, I think they would solve a lot of emotional and psychological problems, because it's the fastest way to sanity is question your own way of thinking. The fastest way to sanity is questioning your own way of thinking. Think about that. Okay, the fourth one is the unanswered question. This can happen at the end of self-talk, and that's when you ask yourself a question that you cannot answer in that time, and it's based on the complexity of the problem, or it's part of the grief or part of the hurt that you're feeling from the problem, and you can't quite solve what it was about that situation that really affected you emotionally and or physically or mentally, and is still affecting you today at some level. And by creating that unanswered question, you leave your mind open to go on a quest of answers and perhaps create a few nice ideas about why and how that thing happened to you. And they're really useful in rationalizing what happened, rationalizing that past event that you want to forget, but you just can't forget. Could be losing a job, could be losing a loved one, could be someone was terrible to you. It could be you lost something very valuable to you. It could be you lost an opportunity. It could be that you were betrayed. It could be any number of things. But the question here is, how do you react? And embracing what is, or embracing the reality of what we live, usually offers you more, you know? And it's kind of like this. I'll give you the restaurant metaphor where you order something and you get it on the plate, okay, a la carte on the plate, but you don't really like what you got. And, half of what you got there you didn't like, and it's not something you can call back to the waiter. It's something that you're just going to have to eat. Looking at everything the way it is and taking responsibility for all of your choices is more like eating at a buffet where you can have a little nibble when nobody's looking, or you can smell, or you can look, and you can decide with a little more information about what you're going to eat. That's making choices. Now, there's two ways or two kinds of human beings. Let's contrast them and see which one you are and where you're focusing. Are you the kind of person that focuses on what you lose or who hurts you? It's a real kind of employee, a very hurt employee on the verge of being fired kind of mentality. A fan or a supporter who mentally has less notion of their personal power to create. And therefore they join up with clubs or groups that think in one kind of way, and they're very close-minded to other ways of thinking or other opinions or other perceptions. The danger of that is that they are basically selling their individuality to be part of a collective. And inside that collective, they get their notion of identity. They don't necessarily have to make choices. So it's very relaxing for the mind. It's all about cheering, wearing the clothes or the colors, and being like them, following them, conforming. Obviously, it could be quite traumatic to live a life like that, especially when you have so many different enemies or competition. And when they won, it was because it was unfair. And when you won, because you were the best in the universe. Okay, so focus on what you can gain. Are you a kind of girl or guy that focuses on what you can gain, having an agenda, being forced to know who you are? So forcing yourself to know, who am I? Always asking this question every day. Wake up in the morning and you're completely disoriented and you say, who am I? That's a question to start the day with. Creating habitual creativity or building on habitual creativity in your routine. Focusing on tasks or new content or study that helps you to become more creative with making choices or making decisions, looking for opportunities or inventing opportunities by yourself, and then kind of separating yourself away from the herd. We've always learned as human beings that in the middle of the herd is the safest, but that's only true if they're not running off a cliff. And sometimes they are running off a cliff, especially when you take examples from the stock market or countries that go to war, things like this, which happens quite often, more than it should. Okay, thank you so much for watching this video today. Thank you for participating with me in these ideas today. I'd love for you to join with me in future videos. So please like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.